Hey guys and girls, so today is a very exciting day, and maybe some of you out there are in the same boat, in the same situation that I might be, but possibly you're one of the lucky ones, let's call it that, out there who's managed to get themselves a Mach E or any other kind of EV vehicle. And it's come time that, say you want to paint the brake calipers so that it looks like the GT model, or you just want to swap out the summer for winter tires because it's getting to be that time of year. It's July right now, so it's obviously not that time of year, but regardless, lifting an EV vehicle is not as straightforward as lifting a normal gas operated vehicle. The reason being is that you've got the battery pack under there, which cannot be lifted on. If you damage that battery pack, you're in big trouble. You're going to void warranty. You're going to potentially cause some bodily harm by doing this, especially if you puncture one of those battery packs in there. It's not going to be a good time. If you French fry when you're supposed to pizza, you're going to have yourself a bad time. So today we're just going to do a very, very quick, very informative video on how to actually jack up Mach E, and this will also apply to other EV vehicles, Teslas, Ioniq 5s, EV6s, etc. I apologize for all the traffic. This is the busiest residential street in London, Ontario. So, forgive my... Very good. So, the first thing you're going to want to do is chalk the back tires. If you're working on the front, chalk the backs. If you're working on the backs, chalk the fronts. Okay? You can use wheel chalks like this. I highly recommend it. They've got grips on the bottom to actually grip into the asphalt, and they slide in nice and snug. A lot of times these are actually a little difficult to remove after the vehicle's kind of shifted after you've lifted it. They work fantastic. You can use just a 2x4, a 4x4, a 6x6. I've seen people use a rock, and you know what? The rock works. Don't knock it till you try it, but the rock does work. So that's the first thing that I would do. Second thing, put on the parking brake. And it says parking brake on. So this will only work in this vehicle and pretty much every vehicle that I know of if the back wheels are on the ground. If the back wheels are above the ground, you can still put the parking brake on, but the parking brake is based on the back wheels, not the front. So putting it in park will lock the fronts, and then obviously having wheel chocks underneath the front tires when you're lifting the back will help you with that. So the next thing that we need to look at is the lifting points. So there's two lift points, one here, one here. Obviously the matches on the other side. And it can actually be identified by these arrows. So you can see arrow here and the arrow there. So between this point is where you want to lift. This is the battery pack. You do not want to lift on that. This here is plastic. This lip right here, that's plastic. You don't want to lift on that. So again, battery pack, here it is here. There's like a frame for it, okay? No lifty there. There's this flat section right here, approximately 3.5 inches wide, just over. That's where you want to lift. Again, between both the arrows. Now, the problem that I've got with my jack, even though Ford specifically shows that this jack will lift this vehicle in the state that it's in, and I'm trying to do this, mind you, two-handed, or one-handed I should say, is that by the time I go to get my jack in place, it's sitting up on that plastic, this plastic lip here and this plastic piece. We don't want to be lifting on that. So the quick, easy solution for that, get that jack to come down, is to cut yourself a 2x4 block. So the block will just literally sit like that, and it's going to give you a spacer between the plastic and the rail itself. So again, I apologize for the quality of this. Trying to do this one-handed, but there we go. So now the 2x4 is sitting between the plastic, that plastic lip, and the battery rail here, and it just gives you that extra clearance that you need to clear this plastic here. You don't need the clearance to clear this, but it just gives you that extra clearance. And again, we're between the two arrows. You can see the one arrow. I'm trying to do this. So the one arrow's here, the other arrow's up over there. So we've got a nice clean lift now, and we're ready to go. Okay guys and girls, now we're actually ready to lift the vehicle. We've got the vehicle chalked at the back so it's not going to roll backwards. We have the parking brake on, so again, hopefully it won't roll backwards. We've got our lifting block in the right spot, and we're actually going to lift the vehicle. So again, I might not have said this at the beginning, you can use a pump jack like I've got here, you can use a bottle jack, you can use the jack that comes with the vehicle, you can use a scissor jack, you can use any kind of jack that will fit in that spot that's meant for lifting a vehicle. Again, we put the lifting block in this one just so that we can get that little bit of clearance that we needed, and should make the lift go that much better. We're just going to double check, make sure that everything's okay. Everything looks good. And we're off the ground now. So I hope you found this video informative, because really it does look a little intimidating. And I will say that this frame is super rigid. It's pulling that back tire up quite a bit, but sometimes you don't know unless you have a little bit of knowledge. And you can see, and what I might actually do is make like a little pocket that 2x4 will sit into. That'll make it easier for referencing where that lift point is and where that block should go. But as you can see, our two arrows, maybe just a hair off on the other side, but we had to get beside that bolt. Really weird that they would put that bolt right in the lifting area, but again, the jack is putting that pressure right in that spot that it needs to be. We're not impacting any of the structural frames. We're not impacting the battery, which is the big one. And we're up off the ground. But what I wanted to mention is when I got to the rears, lifting up the front was no issue. But lifting the rears became a bit of an issue. And what the issue was is that at the lifting point that Ford designates here and here, there's a bolt right there. So how do you put a flat section, a lifting section, in an area that has a bolt? Why they wouldn't just shift the lift point a few inches so that that block would sit in between? You know, obviously it would make a smaller block, but we'd put it in between these bolts. But for whatever reason, Ford has said that you need to lift exactly here to here. So the block that we made needed to be modified. And by modifying, we did this. So we drilled a hole. It's 1 3/8 inches, 1 1/8, I believe. And what it will do is it will actually saddle that screw or that bolt, and it'll allow us to lift. Now this one here, this second notch that you see here, this is for the one on the opposite side, so that when we flip it around, everything works out on the opposite side. So that's the only issues that I ran into when I was lifting. I had to make modifications to this block, but after I did that, no issues. Lifting was no issue. What I might do in the future is make a taller block that comes right down below the battery support here, so that there's no risk of hitting it, but that's for another video. So let's continue with the rest of the video. So now you're ready to replace them rims, swap over to your winters or summers, do any kind of work that you might need to do on this vehicle. So there will be more content like this coming. Obviously this is brand new. I've only had it a week. It's a week to the day now that we've picked it up, and we're already looking at doing some modifications, if you want to call it that. We're going to be painting those calipers, painting the hats on those rotors. So if you're interested in that, click at the end of the video. I'll have a link to it. If you're new to the site, click subscribe. We're adding content like this now going to be fairly regularly on the Mach E, but if you're also looking at doing car maintenance, house maintenance, yard maintenance, stuff that I think that any homeowner can do, man, woman, child, elderly, you name it, you can do it with a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of encouragement, if you want to call it that. Yeah, with a little bit of information, you never know what you're capable of, because you never know unless you bear. Hit that thumbs up button if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't like it. Tell me why down in those comments. Also, if you have any questions, again, down in the comments, I will answer every single question. I promise. I feel like the content is much more important than the actual quality of the content. Let's put it that way. And hopefully you guys and girls feel the same way. If you do, you found the right place. Again, you never know unless you bear. We'll see you on the next one.